What up, World Weary team? Back at it again. Welcome to the episode. Today I'm talking about the rarest TV phenomenon, when a spin-off actually outshines the original series. So there's been a bunch of spin-offs over the years, and I got a couple spin-offs that I thought were better than the original. And I'm going to talk about why spin-offs fail and why the spin-off gets more focused than the original, and the shows that I think that are a better show than the original. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Welcome to Why Spin-offs Usually Fail. Let's be honest, most spin-offs exist because the original show was successful, not because the new show had a better concept. They reuse characters, settings, and fan interest, but they rarely capture the magic that made the original show great. That's why when a spin-off actually surpasses the original, it stands out in a major way. So there's been tons of spin-offs, and a lot of them fail. Like Three's Company had a spin-off, which a lot of people didn't watch, called The Ropers. The Ropers were the original owners of the building where Jack and them stayed at. And they're familiar characters, people know them. But in my own personal opinion, I don't think they were ever built for their own show. Those characters were great feeding off of Jack and Chrissy and all those guys. And that's what made that dynamic good. But them in their own show was not good. They brought back some of the characters to try to bring it up a little bit. But what I was reading, the reason why they got their own show is because I guess they wanted their own show, and the studio wanted to get them out. They wanted to bring in Don Knotts, and to get them out, they gave them their own show, knowing it was going to fail. And eventually, it failed, of course, because it wasn't a good show. I actually remember watching it in syndication, and it really wasn't good.
Not see again.
You've been trying to sell this house behind my back.
Well, what I did was I put it on the market just to see what it was worth.
They had some laughs because you knew the characters, but overall it was not going to last a long time like Three's Company did. And that's what a lot of these networks do. They give these side characters that they think are going to be big a shot, and usually those shots don't go off. They fail miserably, and that's what happened in the case of The Ropers. When the spinoff gets more focus, the biggest advantage a spinoff has is focus. Instead of juggling a large cast and multiple storylines, a spinoff zooms in on one character or concept and develops it deeper. The tighter focus often leads to better character growth, stronger writing, and more memorable moments. An example of that is the Cosby spinoff, A Different World.
Hi, say hello to Lisa Bonet and her very own comedy series. Yes. It's a classy, brassy, ambitious, delicious, wiggling, giggling, brainy, zany good show. Premiering Thursday, September 24th, it's A Different World.
Where they focused on Lisa Bonet's character for the first couple of seasons, and then she left the show for some reason. But they already had a strong fan base, so it continued without her being on there. That show was actually good. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that show. I think there was a couple episodes where Bill and Claire came to visit in the first couple of seasons, but like I said, as the seasons went on, Lisa Bonet's character left the show, and it was more focused on Dwayne Wayne and all of those other characters. They built such a strong following that the show didn't need the original character that they started off as. And a lot of shows do that, but this is like the first show that I remember actually went away from the main characters that they started the spinoff for. Example 1, The Jeffersons is better than All in the Family. George Jefferson started as a side character on All in the Family, but once he got his own show, everything changed. The Jeffersons leaned into George's personality, his marriage with Wheezy, and his rise in status. The show felt more focused, more stylish, and more culturally impactful over time. So, I used to love All in the Family, but The Jeffersons was an amazing show, and that theme song always hit. When Sherman Hisley came over, he was magnetic. Every time he came on screen, he was funny. He was just a character that audiences wanted to see more of. They had a lot more episodes with him coming over and visiting or whatever.
Bunker, if I don't get my money right now, you're gonna find yourself on top of the 10 most sorry honky list. Jefferson, when you can't step outside, I'm ready. Good, then step outside. I'm going to bed.
That kind of character, which could carry his own scenes flawlessly on a show that was already big, was huge. So they gave him a shot, him and his wife a shot on the Jeffersons, and that show just took off. It was a great show.
How about a little advice instead?
If it's free, you got it.
It's about the guy I owe the money to. He's got the whammy on me, Pop.
Say what?
This dude at school, Phil Green, I can't beat him at anything.
That's life, son. Some folks are winners and some folks are losers.
I love the Jeffersons, and I think that over time it became a better show than All in the Family because it was so good. And Sherman Hemsley was amazing as George Jefferson. He just carried that show into heights that I don't think that even the people that made the show thought it would be. Example 2, Star Trek: The Next Generation, better than the original Star Trek. Star Trek: The Next Generation is one of the strongest cases where a spin-off evolved beyond the original series. The original Star Trek laid the foundation, but The Next Generation expanded the world, the philosophy, and the storytelling scale. With Captain Jean-Luc Picard, deeper moral dilemmas, and more advanced sci-fi themes, the show felt more mature and more expansive than the original. I am a huge fan of The Next Generation. I wasn't a big fan of the original Star Trek. I didn't really like it, even though it was on all the time as a kid. But when The Next Generation came out, that show was everything. I was like stuck to this TV every fucking week when it came on. I watched every episode. I still love it to this day. It's one of my favorite sci-fi shows of all time, and it definitely expanded on what the original Star Trek set out of, and it expanded the whole Star Trek universe. There's been tons of movies, tons of different shows, but this is my all-time favorite, and I love the way it's the same universe, the same type of stories, but they just blew it up to something that they never imagined it would be. And that's how you do a spin-off. You have to make the spin-off better than the original to keep it going, and that's what they did with The Next Generation. It was just so much better than the original. Example 3, Pinky and the Brain was better than Animaniacs. Here's a fun debate. Pinky and the Brain started as segments inside Animaniacs, but when they got their own show, they became the full focus. Instead of quick sketches, we get full stories built around Brain's plans and Pinky's chaos. The deeper focus made their personalities, jokes, and running gags even stronger. For some fans, Pinky and the Brain felt more consistent and memorable than the larger, more chaotic Animaniacs format. I was not a fan of Animaniacs, but whenever Pinky and the Brain came on, I was tuned in. And when they got the spin-off, I loved the Pinky and the Brain show. It was so much better than Animaniacs, so funny. I think the storylines were a lot better. I think the characters were a lot better. They were so funny, but not over the top like the Animaniacs was. And I thought the show really improved on Animaniacs. Like I said, Animaniacs was all right, but Pinky and the Brain was just everything. It was so much better. The storylines, the writing, the characters, all the gags. It was just better than Animaniacs overall. And they did a good job in giving them their own spin-off. And I think it was on like 4 seasons too. Why some spin-offs feel better. When a spin-off works better, it's usually because it fixes the original show's limitations. More focused storytelling, deeper character exploration, and a fresh tone without losing the familiar world. It feels new, but still connected to what fans already love. So in the cases of the shows that I picked, Star Trek: The Next Generation, Pinky and the Brain, and The Jeffersons, those shows felt new, but you knew that they were coming off of something else. And the writers were very smart in making it about those characters that we already know and love, and then expanding that universe, especially when it came to Star Trek: The Next Generation. That series started off with none of the characters from the original show. and all you had was the title and the Enterprise. That's what you knew about the Next Generation, and they totally expanded that whole universe and made you love those characters. In the other cases, like I said, for the Jeffersons, you knew who George Jefferson was from his time on All in the Family, and you loved the character, and they expanded him and his family. And with Pinky and the Brain, it was just a totally different show. It was a spinoff. You knew the characters from Animaniacs. I don't believe they ever brought any of the Animaniacs on Pinky and the Brain, but you knew who those characters was, and they expanded that universe and made them characters that you wanted to watch on a regular basis. And that's how you make these spinoffs better. You expand on what you got, and you make them want to be watchable. You make the stories better. Sometimes you bring in the characters from the original if you're not doing well, but if you don't need the other characters, you continue with what you got. I am a big fan of spinoffs, so anytime a topic about spinoffs come up, I'm all in if it's in the right, if they choose the right characters. It's all about choosing the right characters for the spinoff. So because if you choose the wrong character, then the show is bound to fail. Most spinoffs struggle to live up to the original, but every once in a while, one comes along that's sharper, deeper, and more focused. And suddenly the side story becomes the main event. The real question is, which spinoff do you think was actually better than the original show? Drop your best spinoff in the comments. Let me know. That's going to do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. I truly appreciate it. You can vote on anybody else's channel, and you decided to give me a couple minutes of your day. There's only 24 hours in a day, and I hope I didn't waste yours. Time is very valuable. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I respond to all the comments. So that's going to do it. Have a good one. You've been watching